In this video, we are going to explore the case of young Mary Bell, the blue-eyed child, one of the most brutal killers to ever exist. At just 11 years old, she was capable of causing so much harm that none of us could ever imagine experiencing.
Welcome to Murderer's Mind, the place where we delve into the minds of the most brutal murderers in human history. Today's case is Mary Bell, a completely true story. One of those stories that will send chills down your spine, the story of Mary Bell, a girl with an angelic face who ended lives in horrifying ways when she was only 11 years old. Let's begin. Mary Bell was born in May 1957 in Newcastle, England, and I want to remind you that this is absolutely true, a real tragic story. All the macabre details, all the horrifying details you will hear in the next few minutes are true. They are verifiable. Mary Flora Bell was born in Newcastle, and from a very early age, like the vast majority of psychopaths and murderers, she had a very hard childhood. She was raised by a terrible woman, someone who claimed to be her mother. Her mother was a prostitute who raised her alone. And pay attention, because what I'm about to say is very shocking. Her mother started selling her daughter's body when Mary was only 5 years old. At 5 years old, she was already having relationships with clients, of course, her mother's clients, an alcoholic and drug addict who beat her, mistreated her, and humiliated her, but above all, sold her to make easy money. We are talking about selling a girl of only 5 years old. This monster, because there is no other way to describe her, Betty Bell, that was her name, tried to kill her child on several occasions, without success, claiming that the girl had fallen, that the girl had drunk alcohol they had at home, that she had taken the medication her mother was taking, and had taken it all at once. Poor girl. She had to live the worst side of human beings, if you can even call them human beings. The mother always hid the fact that she was a horrendous mother, a mother like very few, surely, have ever seen. And, as happens with many children who have experienced this violence, this torture, this chaos within their own home from a young age, they end up copying or learning that the way to love, the way to treat others is through pain, it is through manipulation, and it is through hatred. A monster was being created. From a very young age, Mary had one of the most typical traits of juvenile psychopaths. She enjoyed hurting animals until she made them lose their lives. Think that when a child skillfully tortures several animals, we are talking about large animals, mammals, cats, dogs, domestic animals. When that child is killing or torturing those animals, there is a very serious problem, a very important psychological problem. Mary Bell had those problems, and as in a large part of these juvenile psychopaths, she would move from animals to human beings, and also very defenseless human beings, children her age or even younger.
She began to mistreat her classmates. She hit the younger boys and girls, always looking for the weakest ones, always looking for those who could not defend themselves. She spit on them, insulted them, and even tried to strangle a younger girl. But luckily that girl was able to escape thanks to the help of her friends. The teachers thought they were children's games and did not give it more importance, but they were not children's games. And now you will see why. On May 25th, 1968, just when Mary turned 11 years old, that girl with an angelic face, with that almost perfect face, with those blue but cold eyes, committed her first murder. Mary came into contact with Martin Brown, who was a neighbor's child of only 4 years old. She manipulated him and tricked him into going to an abandoned house, and there she put him on the ground and strangled him to death. She left without leaving any clues, any signs, any marks. The same day, Martin's parents reported the disappearance of their son. The next day, the police found the body at the crime scene. There were no clues. Mary, even though she was only 11 years old, was very clever and left nothing. The police thought that an adult man had been the perpetrator of that murder because of the force with which the child had been strangled, and that a murderer was free and lurking nearby. What they never imagined was that this murderous man was actually a little girl, a girl with an angelic face, a girl named Mary Bell. She only had one friend, a girl 2 years older than her, that is, 13 years old, named Norma Bell. Although they have the same last name, they are not related at all. Norma was a girl, even to a lesser extent. Similar to Mary, she liked to torture other girls. She liked to scare people, and undoubtedly, like her best friend, she had an absolute lack of empathy towards others. Mary and Norma began to act strangely. For example, Mary went to her neighbor's house once the funeral had passed and asked about Martin. The parents, young parents of 34 and 36 years old, devastated, told her that Martin had passed away, and she, even being the perpetrator of the murder, laughed and said, "I know, but I want to see him in his coffin." Horrible. Another strange thing they did, in addition to torturing, scaring, and hitting other boys and girls, was to enter a nursery, destroy part of the furniture, and Mary took a chalk and wrote in large letters, "I murdered," and then some dots, implying that she might do it again. The police, the teachers again failed and took this as a bad joke, as one more example of the character they already knew of Norma and Mary Bell, a character that they knew was eccentric, that they knew was strange, but it did not go beyond that. They are girls who are probably not well at home. They are probably not quite right in the head, but they are not going to hurt anyone, absolutely no one, or they are not going to do anything serious. As you already know, they could not be more wrong, and the second murder was about to happen. Mary and Norma set their sights on a new target, a child of only 3 years old named Brian Howe, on July 31st of that same year, 1968, and this time accompanied by her inseparable friend Norma. Mary kidnapped Brian, took him to an area near the abandoned house, an area where there was rubble, and there she strangled him. But this time, she went a step further. It is not known exactly whether before or after the child died, Mary took a pair of scissors and began to mutilate parts of the body, focusing above all on his private parts. She cut off his testicles. She cut off parts of his penis. She cut off parts of his leg, and also several locks of hair. Even Norma was horrified. She asked her to stop, to end the torture. The child was already dead. There was nothing more to do. But Mary Bell did not want to stop, so Norma ran away. She ran without looking back, but she said absolutely nothing about the murder, nothing about what she had seen, and she said nothing that could blame her partner. To finish her macabre work, Mary took the scissors and marked with all the force she could on the child's stomach the initials MB. Mary marked it so deep that the intestines were showing when the police found the body. Again, there was nothing that could lead to the conclusion that an 11-year-old girl had been the perpetrator of the crime. But something always happens with psychopaths, and that is that they want notoriety. The vast majority of psychopaths love to be the center of attention. They want people to talk about their crime. They want people to think about them. And Mary, even though she was a girl, was a psychopath in every way. So she talked too much, and that was her undoing. In the days following the second murder, Mary returned to the home of the recently deceased child's parents and asked them about their son, about how they felt, if they were sad, if they had any idea who the murderer could be. This, together with the fact that the parents had already seen how Norma and Mary bothered their son for several days before the murder, made the police look at those two girls, initially innocent. Scotland Yard interrogated the friends for days. They denied absolutely everything, and in a fairly clever way tried to blame other people. According to a police report, and these are verbatim words, Mary Bell, in a very cunning and insidious way, showing great intelligence, blamed a boy from the neighborhood, a totally innocent boy. Verbatim words from a police report that was made at that time. But Mary, even being an intelligent psychopath with her good face, her angelic face, her blue eyes, made a mistake like almost everyone else. They end up making a mistake. She said that she remembered seeing the boy playing with scissors, and the police at that moment knew that she was the culprit. It was her because they had never mentioned or told her that scissors were found at the crime scene, so they knew that she was hiding something. Detective Thompson, who was in charge of the investigation, declared that he had never seen such a terrifying girl, that girl had such an evil look that even he, an adult man, a policeman, was afraid, that she behaved like a deranged person, and that even when she saw images of the coffin with the child's body inside, she laughed and rubbed her hands. In the end, the detective got a confession from Mary herself, who also implicated Norma. For her part, Norma completely blamed Mary, which was true, and both were locked up at the Newcastle West police station. They argued and insulted each other like two adults the entire time they were in the same place. During the trial, Mary once again confirmed that she was the one who committed the murders and said she did it simply because she wanted to know what it felt like. She showed no remorse at any point. The court was harsh and sentenced her to life imprisonment. As for Norma, the court found her innocent but mentally disturbed, so she was sent to a psychiatric hospital for several years. We've told you that Mary was sentenced to life, but that wasn't exactly the case. I can assure you that Mary is currently free and only spent 12 years in prison. How is that possible? Well, in England, there is a legal term called "at His Majesty's pleasure," which essentially means you are sentenced indefinitely. There is no exact number of years. You could spend your whole life in prison. It's a very British legal concept. I'm not sure if it exists in other countries, but what happens is that some prisoners serve many years, while others, like Mary Bell, don't. Due to sentence reviews and good behavior, Mary was released despite once escaping from an open prison, a low-security facility where you could almost jump over the fence. She escaped, according to her, just to go out partying because she wanted to enjoy the nightlife after years of confinement. She was recaptured and lost some of her privileges, but by the age of 23, Mary Bell was free. What happened to her after her release? Very little is known. She wanted to start a new life, forget everything, never gave interviews, and made no public comments. Unlike her mother, Betty Bell, who sold every detail of Mary's story, how she raised her, what she did to her, and what Mary was like at home. Betty continued to profit off her daughter, not by prostituting her this time, but by selling her privacy for mere morbid curiosity. If you ask me, The person who should have been in prison for life is Betty Bell. She is the true culprit behind everything. Mary, on the other hand, wanted to start over. She is known to have become a mother and achieved something unprecedented at the time: a court order that prevented the press from pursuing her. This became known as the Mary Bell Order, a UK Supreme Court ruling protecting the privacy of convicted individuals who are now free. Mary was the first, and surely there will be many more cases like hers. Tired of having her life broadcasted and talked about, she simply wanted to disappear from the public eye. As I mentioned, she has never spoken publicly, and no one knows what she looks like today. And here ends the absolutely true story of a blue-eyed child who was capable of the worst. I leave you with a chilling quote from Mary Bell herself during her trial. "I like hurting living things, people and animals that are weaker than me and can't fight back." With those words from an 11-year-old girl, we conclude: evil can exist anywhere. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want more content like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all my new uploads. I hope you enjoyed the content. We'll be back. Murderer's Mind.